Ahoy there, goobers. Welcome to Create and Destroy. I'm your host, Dan Donnarumma, and this is episode 33. Been looking forward to episode 33. 33 is my number. So besides today's episode, I am super freaking excited for this week in general. Obviously, we got this episode for you guys, but then my wife and I are going to be releasing our first episode for a podcast that we're doing together called Dan's on Fandom. So that's going to be dropping later this week, and that podcast is all about us delving into the nerd shit that we love. On top of that, we are going to New York Comic Con, which I'm so goddamn excited. This is the first time that either of us will be going to New York Comic Con, and I'm really excited for that. Some really cool panels that we're going to be checking out. Cannot freaking wait. All right, so enough nerd talk. Let's get into it. My guests for you guys today are April Gerloff and Alex Kent of the band Sprain. I discovered Sprain in an unusual way. I had seen that they were going to be playing some shows with Planning for Burial, Drowse, and Elizabeth Colorwheel. And when I'd seen those flyers for those shows going around and I saw Sprain's name popping up a few times, I said to myself, this is probably a band I should check out if they're playing multiple shows with some of my current favorite bands right now. I peeped their self-titled EP and was fucking blown away by it. It is such a fantastic EP. Oh man, it hits me in the goddamn feels, guys. So, quick story for you guys. One night, I'm getting ready to go to bed and I've got my earbuds in and I'm listening to the self-titled EP and I'm listening to the opening track on the release, which is called True Norwegian Black Metal. And the ending of the song, there's lyrics about putting a dog down. And so I'm listening to the song, I look over at my dog who's sleeping on her bed being cute as fuck, and I just start tearing up. My wife looks at me and she asks me, what the hell's wrong? And I explain to her that what I'm listening to and what the lyrics are about. Next thing I know, she starts tearing up. Danielle and I have talked about this. Our cat and our dog, when they die, we know we are going to be an absolute fucking wreck. My last cat, when he died, I was a disaster. So when my current cat and my current dog die, it's going to be tough as hell, and it's something that my wife and I already know. So whenever I listen to that song, it fucks me up, man, because it makes me think about my dog potentially dying. But even that song aside, it really is just such a goddamn gut-wrenching release. And there's only 5 tracks on that EP, but man, they are 5 awesome tracks that at times can be grueling. I told Alex and April this when we spoke. I had a rotation going where I would listen to their EP, I would listen to Codeine, and I was going back and forth between Frigid Stars and The White Birch. I would listen to Light Mirror by Drowse, and I would listen to 5512 by Gregor Samsa. And there would be moments where I'd be listening to this rotation and I'd be saying to myself, fuck, these albums are all great, but holy shit, dude, this is like a little too much right now. And what I love about their music is that they're a slowcore band, absolutely, but they pull from other genres. You can catch moments of some noise in there and some post-rock, maybe even a little shoegaze at times. It really is great. And I told Alex and April this, I'm really fucking excited to see what else they put out for us, because I did talk to them about the fact that they are working on new songs and new materials and some of the things that they're incorporating with their new material. So I'm very excited to hear new songs from them. Sprain is a band that I cannot recommend enough to you guys, especially if you are into a lot of the bands that you see me talk about on Instagram or bands that I've interviewed. I think that they're going to be a band a lot of you will really like. I really hope at some point in the future Sprain is going to make their way to the East Coast, because shit, I really want to see them. So Alex and April, get your asses to upstate New York so I could see you guys play. All right, so let's get into it, guys. Here's my conversation with April Gerloff and Alex Kent of Sprain. Alex and April, how are you guys doing this afternoon?
Pretty good.
Doing good.
I want to talk about Sprain and your guys' music, but before we get into that, you guys recently played several shows with Planning for Burial, Drowse, and Elizabeth Colorwheel, and I wanted to ask, how did those shows go?
It was good. Unfortunately, I feel really bad because I know it sucks when you're on tour and you get to the gig and there's problems. So unfortunately, as awesome as the show with Elizabeth Colorwheel could have been, and Drouse, I remember they had to cut their set short. There was some technical issues. I mean, I don't know if you want to call them technical issues or like Kyle just said negligent sound person.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Negligent sound person. That's a good way.
Oh, dude, that sucks.
They made it work. They kind of did some noise stuff.
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it was still
I thought
awesome.
they were great.
I thought it was great, but I know that they would have wanted to play like a full set.
Have you ever played with any of those bands before or seen them play before?
I hadn't seen Elizabeth Colorwheel play, actually. That's why I was kind of disappointed with the engineer of that night.
We've played with Drouse 3 times and Planning for Burial twice.
Oh, dude. So what did you guys think of Elizabeth Colorwheel?
Amazing.
Yeah.
They're incredible, right?
Yeah.
They put on like one of the best live sets from a band I've seen in a long time. They are really, really good. And Lane is such an incredible vocalist.
Yeah, Lane's awesome.
Yeah, Lane is the shit. They're awesome. And they're really, really nice people.
Oh, I'm sure, man.
Yeah.
They seem like it.
Yeah, they're really sweet people.
I never heard you guys before that like run of shows. I had seen the flyers for those shows going up, and I saw that you guys were playing several shows with these bands, and in my head was like, all right, I should probably check this band out if they're playing with a bunch of Flens bands. Did you guys find that other people found out about Sprain because of those shows and because of the bands that you were playing with?
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like there's a lot of like adjacency between us and other bands on that label, so I feel like a lot of people who like that kind of music also kind of like ended up checking us out and being into us as well.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit after I had first listened to you guys, then I started to notice like people in the Flenser Facebook group talking about your band, and you're just like seeing other stuff about your band online. You're just like, fuck yes, dude.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I guess that did happen. There was some people that posted about us in that group. And I think actually recently the EP just got posted by this nice young man, Adam Washington.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. And so have you guys toured before?
Yeah, we've toured twice now.
2.5
times. Yeah.
The run of shows that you did this summer, like how many shows did you guys play with those bands?
Oh, well, we just played with Kyle one time in Portland. The first time we played with Tom was a year ago, basically. And actually, yeah, that was when I think a lot of people like Tom's music and a lot of people came to that show. And Drouse played that show. So it was really great to be on there. And we got along pretty well. So we just played with Kyle again in Portland. And yeah, I think that was the only show before. Oh, yeah. And then, yeah, they came down here this summer. And then Tom, it was a kind of funny month because Tom was here and we had a show with Tom.
Well, Tom wanted to play a secret show, which I ended up making perhaps a little less secret than he would have wanted. He was going to play with Have a Nice Life the day after he played with us. So it was supposed to be like low key and he was just going to play a drone set. And so I kind of, I think we promoted it as less of a secret show and more of just like a alternative Planning for Burial set as opposed to the one he was going to play with Have a Nice Life the next day. But yeah, that show was really cool because Tom played his drone set, and that was the best time I've ever heard Tom's music, was that set. It was really cool.
I saw him, was it like back in May, I think? He played with Big Brave, and he did a complete drone set, and it was so cool. It was the first time I'd seen him do just like a straight up drone set, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Drone Tom is best Tom.
That's a quote you took from somebody.
I stole that quote from someone off of Twitter, I think.
And you guys had mentioned, so you've gone on tours before. Like, what's the longest you guys have toured for?
Probably not that long. Like 2.5 weeks, probably 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that is enough time to be on tour? Is it too little, too much?
I feel like it's right before you get tired. I feel like I get home and I feel like I could have kept touring, but then I think about it and I'm like, that's probably good. It's like drinking, maybe. Like, you don't really like realize you're wasted until you're super wasted. So I have a feeling it's probably similar in that regard. So I think it's cool. We do want to do some longer tours next summer, maybe, or spring.
Yeah, we're definitely planning on touring more next year.
Hell yeah. What's the farthest east you guys have gone?
Not far.
So has it just been like West Coast stuff?
West Coast and Southwest, yeah.
We've only been a band for like a year and a half, maybe. So we're still kind of a young band. But yeah, the East Coast and the South are things that we're looking at touring, as well as the Midwest.
So yeah, I would imagine, I've never played in a band before, but I would imagine it's probably tougher to go on longer tours or to plan tours where you're going further across the state when you're a newer band, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It helps if you have somebody in a different town that will actually help you. So we've been lucky to like book shows completely DIY up until now, and we've never showed up to a venue and been like screwed. Like everybody's been there and put a lot of work into the show or the flyer or promoting it. So I think that kind of thing doesn't exist without relationships that are like legit and not just like hitting up people online and making them care that you're going on tour. Like,
yeah,
finding people who actually want to put together a show. They're already thinking of other bands that would be great for the bill, like people who love doing that and are passionate about it. So I think that's the thing.
So yeah, that just makes sense. And I would imagine the bigger you get or the more well-known you are, that shit just becomes easier.
Yeah, it becomes easier, but not that much easier. Well, I mean,
I guess we wouldn't know.
And you guys are from LA, and I know, Alex, you and I talked about this. I have some people that tell me they absolutely love LA, and some people I know, they're like, that city is whack. So without getting into that, like, how is the music scene in LA, especially for you guys, where you guys are a slowcore band, and slowcore isn't like the biggest genre around? So I would imagine there's probably some slowcore adjacent bands in LA, but is it trickier for you guys to find shows for you to play in LA?
At first it was pretty tricky because we were playing with a lot of bands that were more like just rock oriented, you know, just like real like rock music,
like blues
or, well, no, I mean, we never really played, more like psychedelic.
Our first show, I think, was with Stephanie's band. They're pretty blues.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it was just like, it was less, I guess, less like intentionally artsy music that we played with. But after a while, you kind of like carve out a little niche that you find in whatever city you're playing in, and you end up playing with other bands. And we've played with, we've been lucky enough to like find some of the more underground and really interesting adjacent acts in LA. But really, there's no one who's really like doing like slowcore music, I would say, in Los Angeles. Not that I know of. I mean, there's like a couple people that sound influenced by like the genre or bands in the genre, but I wouldn't say that, like, I don't think there's like another band that's really like, except for one I can think of, that's like really wearing like slowcore as like a genre name or something. And we're also not like entirely, you know, that either. So, but basically the answer to your question is non-existent. Like there's really no like, there is no place for a slowcore band in Los Angeles.
I'm thinking as I ask this question, I'm just thinking about Rochester. I don't think there's any slowcore bands here. I don't even know if there would really be like slowcore adjacent bands here. There's some like there's some experimental, like noisy types of bands that I guess could be kind of in the same ballpark, or maybe be of interest for people that are into slowcore. But yeah, there's not much around here in the vicinity of where I live.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is that even though you could say LA is like kind of a hard place to play, in some ways it is, but I just think about other towns where there's probably like even less. So I think we've found some bands to play with. Sometimes it's like a hardcore band, and sometimes it's like an indie rock band.
Yeah, a lot of our music kind of, I'd say, like, walks a line between like heavier music and what some people would call like indie music or something. So we can play with hardcore bands or like even metal bands or whatever, but we can also play with like shoegaze bands and bands like that. So
interesting, dude.
In that regard, it's actually pretty easy to fit on a bill.
Would you prefer to play with a band that is similar or kind of straddles the same genre lines that you do, or would you prefer to play with heavier sounding bands, maybe hardcore and metal?
I don't think we have a preference. I think for me, I just what I prefer is just a show where everybody's nice.
Yeah.
We played a hardcore show and I got pushed around and I had back surgery and I didn't ask for that, and I understand that people are having fun and things like that too, but you also, people don't know other people's lives, and so that things like that kind of suck. But for the most part, I like playing on any type of show.
I just don't think we want to play with the same type of bands consistently, like too many times in a row.
Last week I saw Soft Kill and Vane play together, and I was a little skeptical of how that would be. And it was actually fucking awesome. I don't know if you're into either of those bands, but I can totally say that there were people doing stupid shit and like moshing like assholes, which I am not a fan of. But I thought it was really cool to see a show that had two bands that were completely fucking different sounding.
Yeah, that sounds actually like a great lineup.
Yeah, I think we really like mixed bills. Like if I can go to a show and every band is like doing, kind of like a different thing, it's good, because I think that we all get a little tired of just standing around watching, generic whatever bands playing.
I've talked about this before. I feel like when I was younger, it was much more common to go to shows where it was a mixed bill. And over the years, it's become more and more common that now it's just a bill is bands that sound very similar or are in the same like vein of genres. And I totally am for mixed bill shows. I think it's awesome.
I like it too, because I know that people who might not like my band, like my friends, some of my friends, I think I think that it's good for them that they can we'll play with a band like Gold Cage or Sonoda, and my friends can come to a Sprain show and see something like that and not just loud feedback guitar music. So that's definitely a huge perk to doing a mixed bill. And people can bring other friends too. It doesn't have to be a metal only show and someone being like, oh, I'm not metal enough for this show. They can have whoever come.
Yeah, plus I just think it's good to get a bunch of people with different musical backgrounds in the same room and introducing themselves to new stuff. I'm a big fan of mixed bills and stuff, and I think that I really think that there should be less separation of genres as far as booking shows go, as long as the genres are adjacent or they fit together. Obviously we're not going to play with a
hair metal band,
or a pop band or something like that. But we could play with a shoegaze band or an ambient artist or screamo or whatever. And I think all that stuff is adjacent and fits into the same vague musical category.
Absolutely. Shit. So you guys have some friends that aren't into your band?
Oh yeah.
Do they? So are they upfront and open about the fact that they're not into your band's music?
Sometimes.
Aw, that sucks.
I did want to say that we have endless support from pretty much all of our friends with this project.
That's sweet, man.
But I can't say that everyone likes it. People listen to the EP and then they get into that and they'll hit us up and they'll want to play a show and they won't realize exactly what kind of band we are, or I guess more the band that we've kind of become. And it's pretty loud, I would say, and it's also pretty like April was saying, drenched in feedback, and there's yelling and chaos. And so I think that people aren't always expecting that. So I had this one friend who likes the EP, but he's not really into heavier music, and I think he told me that like he would go to our shows more, but he doesn't feel like having like his like spirit assaulted or something every time, or something along those lines, you know. Like
when you guys are playing shows, do you play more of your newer songs and maybe not so much of what was off the EP, or is it like a combination of both?
Both. On our last tour, when we got back from tour, we recorded, and we have between 2 and 3 songs. I think one of them was scrapped, but we have a few more ideas that we wanted to focus on practicing. So we practice once a week for about 2 to 3 hours, depending on what's going on. So I think from this point, we just want to play new material and, learn from playing them live before we go into the studio with them.
To go back to LA, did you guys both grow up in LA?
No way, Jose. Yeah, I'm from Central Texas. I was born in San Antonio, Texas.
I was born in Boise, Idaho.
Alex, we talked about this. I've been through Idaho, but I've never got to spend any time really in the state or in Boise. I've never been to Texas. I would love to go to Texas. How different is living in LA now compared to where you guys lived prior to moving to LA?
Oh, it's a complete 180 degree change, you know.
You should talk about Idaho.
Should I talk about Idaho? What do you want to, what should I say?
About how wholesome it is.
Idaho, I mean, it's a good, I think it's an interesting place for people to grow up, because it is like a fast growing city, and it is like kind of a fake big city, but it's actually very small, and there's not really like
very small.
Yeah, very small, and there's not really like a lot of music things or art things in general happening there. I mean, I have friends who make art and stuff out there, but it's not really a place that I would recommend anyone going to like pursue. I wouldn't recommend people like pursuing like an artistic lifestyle in Boise, Idaho, because I don't think you get many opportunities, and I don't think you are surrounded with people that are, for the most part, that concerned with music or art. Is there any bands that I can't recall if I know of any bands from Idaho or Boise, at least not off the top of my head. Is there any bands that maybe I would know or someone would know that's from Idaho? Yeah, Built to Spill. Yes. I didn't even realize that they were from Idaho. Yeah, Boise. Shit. Yeah, they are. The Boys. So that's a pretty big band. I had no clue they were from Idaho.
That's the biggest band.
Do you know the band? I may be wrong here because I got this information secondhand, but there's a band called Infernal Coil.
Yes, yeah.
They're from Boise, and they also used to have members that were in that amazing grindcore band Dead in the Dirt. Do you know that band?
No, I've never heard them before.
I think they only put out like one thing with Southern Lord, but they're the shit. Other than that, there's one electronic guy, Trevor Powers, and they put out this project called Youth Lagoon that was pretty popular back in the day, but other than that, probably nothing, you know.
Grind is one of those genres where it's like it's either I like it or I don't like it at all. So there's only a handful of grind bands that I could get into. It's very hit or miss for me.
That's understandable.
I would say the same thing.
And April, how about you? How about where you grew up in Texas? How is it like living there compared to LA?
Well, I always thought that I was from a small town until I went to Boise. Yeah, so I lived in San Antonio for about like 6 years, and then I lived in Austin for about 5 years, and then I moved here. So yeah, like there's a bunch of differences. Like there's tons of gigs. I got to play plenty of shows in San Antonio and in Austin. And I think when I first moved here, before I even played in Sprain, it was like 8 months or 9 months before I had played a show in Los Angeles. That wasn't like at school. I don't really count that. So yeah, I think in Austin, there's just so many venues, and San Antonio too. There's just so many gigs that it's easy to get them, and maybe a little bit less competitive. And in LA, I feel like you have to kind of like pay your dues for a while before, which is great. Yeah, I think that's what I appreciate about LA is I feel like if we get a great opportunity, I feel like it's because we worked really hard for it, and it wasn't just because like I went to high school with the door guy or something, That's a cool thing about it. I do feel like Los Angeles could take more initiative to preserve these communities, but it is an entertainment city, and there are a lot of kids who grow up to be adults, and they participate in the pay-to-play LA culture, and I think that's really bad for everybody. It's bad for upcoming musicians. It's bad for them. And I guess in Austin, there's just so many programs for musicians. They offer healthcare to musicians through HAM. They have parts of the road blocked off for musician load in and load out as if they were like city workers. And in LA, I feel like there isn't an initiative to preserve venues, and there aren't many all ages spaces. And in Texas, we had all of those things. So we had tons of shows, lots of support from the city. I think San Antonio and Austin both really care about preserving their culture, and they understand that music and art is a part of that. And LA understands that, but in a very like LA sort of way. Yeah, because it's all about money here. So it's harder for people to afford rent, and it's harder for people to afford rent for spaces to host music. So it is a big risk for them to take on a smaller artist, and that's probably where the pay-to-play concept comes from. But I feel like there's got to be a different way to that.
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking about this as you're mentioning this stuff. I'm assuming that in the cities or the towns that you guys both grew up in, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that it maybe was easier to have more of a DIY community there than in LA. Is that assumption correct?
I think for me, yes, because there's just more spaces to do things, and it doesn't cost as much to do them as it does in LA. And I feel like a lot of people are barely getting by sometimes. So like if they want to have a space and stuff, like a lot of people have DIY spaces here in Los Angeles that they live in, and that kind of thing is fine. But then really tragic things can happen, like what happened in San Francisco with the artists living in those creative spaces and it not being up to safety code and things like that. So I think that it's good and it's doable, but I feel like people really have to sacrifice a lot to have these spaces for artists.
And I'm just thinking, what brought both of you guys to LA?
I came here for school. I wanted to study music technology, so that's what I did.
And how about you, Alex?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I went to school and I wanted to play music.
Cool, man. To kind of delve back further, how old were you guys when you started to get into learning how to make music and how to play an instrument?
I took like organ and piano kind of lessons when I was, I don't know, maybe like 9 or 10, 11, 12. And then I got into guitar beyond then. And I wouldn't say I started taking like music super seriously and like really, really caring about it until I was about, in my first couple years of high school. Then I really like fell in love with it and wanted to do stuff with it and wanted to play it more.
Yeah, and for me, I think probably around the same time. My first instrument, my first instrument that I wanted was percussion, and my band director had me play a couple other things first that I didn't like clarinet and trombone. But I like those instruments. I actually did like clarinet, but I really did just want to play drums.
I wish you still played trombone.
I could never really actually. I couldn't reach the 7th position. I kind of would like flick it and then reach out and then pull it back in.
You really got to like stretch it out there, right?
I don't know why they gave that instrument to me. I was short, and I'm still short, but I was shorter. But yeah, so I played percussion just in a like band at school and in an orchestra off campus. And at the time I was living in Germany, so it was like this American German student orchestra, and it was like, look, we can all communicate using the same language, music. Yeah.
Shit. Where in Germany were you living?
It's somewhere no one's heard of. It's called Simbach, and there was a military base there, and my dad was in the military, so I lived out there. And it's in this area called the Rhineland-Pfalz area. It's like this little pocket, like kind of under France, and not far, like maybe 40 minutes from like Frankfurt or something.
That's really cool. Yeah, my grandmother lived in Germany before moving to America. I have no clue where it is that you're referring to, these towns, but I'm sure they're probably really nice.
They're really pretty. Yeah, I liked it there. I feel like that's a good place to have a childhood for sure, because I was in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of like Boise. Oh, you're wearing a Grievo shirt. I just saw that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I saw them the other night and they were fucking awesome.
That's awesome, yeah. I like their music. I haven't seen them live yet.
Oh, they sound just like they do on recording, and they were so good.
That's awesome.
So I wanted to ask you guys, as you're talking about this, I was thinking that, when I was in elementary school, I was in band for a little bit and I played trumpet, and I absolutely hated it because I did not like playing classical music, because this was around the time when I started to get into like Nirvana and Offspring, and I didn't want to play classical music. Did you guys enjoy like the music that you would play in these classes?
I liked the orchestra. I had a really cool band director, so for some of our like marches, we would do like Ludacris. I loved doing that on drums. It was so fun.
Wait, what Ludacris song would you
like
play?
Roll Out and
oh my
Move,
God.
And like yeah.
That's
I loved
awesome.
playing those on drums, but yeah, that was a long time ago.
I've always had a certain amount of appreciation for classical music. I think because, well, I guess lowercase c classical. There's like, capital C classical music and lowercase c. And I'm talking about classical, like the colloquialized term for it, where like you hear like a movie score with strings and you're like, oh, that's a classical arrangement or something. Because I always really, really thought that was cool as a kid, seeing movies and having the score go along with it. And I always thought that was really cool. I had a really negative experience playing an orchestra because the culture of that music is not at all like the culture of like I guess what people would say like DIY music or punk music is. And that's, of course, what I was getting into, But I did have an appreciation for that music, and I still do, and I still enjoy a lot of that stuff.
My wife plays flute. She's played it for probably close to like 2 decades now, and she plays in a symphony. And so my appreciation for classical music has totally grown over the years because of her. Because when I was younger, part of the reason why I hated being in band was having to learn like music history. It's like, I don't want to learn about these old assholes. I just want to play music. I don't give a shit. But from my wife, I have totally grown to appreciate classical music, and especially like you were saying, like musical, like scores for movies, and that stuff is awesome. Yeah, so I totally agree.
Well, I
with
mean,
that.
there's so much cool stuff out there too. Like the 20th century, especially, like at least for me, like you have so much cool stuff, like Ligeti or like Penderecki, all these like bizarre out there composers that were just doing like really forward-looking, interesting things, and we're all really big fans of the avant classical post-rock drone band Godspeed You Black Emperor. And I think that like that's kind of like when like my interest in like both of those like worlds of like punk rock and classical music like really came together, because I was like, wow, like you can totally do both and have it be like amazing. And they're like still one of my favorite bands. And
oh, dude, I love Godspeed. Have you ever seen them play before?
Yeah,
Yes.
we just watched them pretty recently.
Oh, dude, they are incredible live.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good band. We saw them in Joshua Tree, and then we saw them at the Ace Theater in Los Angeles. It's pretty spiffy. It's pretty nice in there.
It's very cool vibe though. It's kind of like a cathedral looking place with like tons of carvings on the wall. It's very like Victorian, I guess you could say. But Godspeed is like one of my favorite bands for sure, and that show was amazing.
Fuck yeah. So do you like other post-rock bands, or are they one of the few that you're into?
April has been on this, what's that, Mogwai kick kind of a little bit. I'm one of those people that's kind of like just kind of a Godspeed person. Like, well, actually, I take that. I mean, post-rock, what does that even fucking
I also
mean?
like Russian
I know,
circles.
right? That's such like a vague term, because I feel like there's so many bands that fall under that genre where you're just like, this band sounds like one thing, Godspeed totally sounds like something different.
I think that I'm not into crescendo core bands like Explosions in the Sky at all. Like I could care less about the twinkly stuff.
See, I can get down with that stuff. Post-rock is like one of my favorite genres because I started getting into it like the end of high school and when I was in college, because that was the stuff that I would listen to whenever I would study. And so now as I've gotten older with working on shit, that's usually the stuff that I'll listen to because it helps me focus. So I can totally get down with those like more twinkly sounding bands like Explosions in the Sky and Caspian and those types of post-rock bands. Yeah. But yes, it is such a fucking vague genre label, post-rock.
Yeah, I think it's a like a little too vague because there's so many, you know, kind of like micro niches that fit within that term. But I also am like, we're all like really big fans of like quote post-rock unquote bands that are like Slint or Rodan or like June of 44, like those types of like, I guess post-rock bands or like post-hardcore bands are like we're very, very into those.
I wanted to say that I agree with you. I think Explosions in the Sky is pretty good. I didn't think that, but I saw them live and it was a game changer. Really? Yeah, it was really good.
They are fucking awesome live.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
I think part of the issue is it's very tough to capture the sound. I don't want to say the emotion, but the heaviness in the sound on recording, because whenever I've seen like Explosions in the Sky, Caspian, This Will Destroy You, they sound way heavier live than they do on recording. And yeah, Explosions in the Sky is really good live.
Yeah, they really took their time. It was like, it wasn't the same thing the whole time. And next thing, I don't know. It was a good performance. So I didn't want to throw them under the bus for this podcast.
Yeah, I don't want to talk shit about Explosions in the Sky. That's not why I'm here. But no, I mean, I'm
sure they're gonna be listening to this and like, we're gonna go kick Sprain's ass now.
Yeah, Explosions in the Sky is gonna come kick our ass. It's gonna be awesome.
So shit, what kind of genres of music were you guys into around the time where you started to like were learning instruments and getting into music?
I was into stupid stuff. I was into like grind and punk and thrash, and I mean I still like that stuff, but I definitely I'm not young and angry in that same regard. So
yeah,
I don't know if it applies to me, but I still like some grindcore bands, like, you know, like Insect Warfare or Discordance Access or something like that. Like those bands are awesome. I think I started chilling out after like a breakup in high school, and actually, yeah, I didn't really listen to that much punk anymore really after that. I just started listening to, like Modest Mouse and At the Drive-In and Sonic Youth and stuff like that.
And how about you, Alex?
Well, I don't know how underground it is, but I had a music teacher that showed me a lot of really cool shit. And one of the big bands for me when I was like real young was Built to Spill. Like I always really liked that band. I still really like that band. But when I really started taking music like super, super seriously and like kind of like becoming like a total like a worshiper kind of like of music or like a big fan of it, I'd say Godspeed was a big one. I really liked that band Me Without You when I was do you know Me Without You?
Yeah.
When I was in high school and stuff, I really, really cared about that band.
I don't think I've ever listened to them before, because I think they've been one of those bands that I have just been like, I don't know if I would like them, and I never gave them a chance. I'm assuming I should give them a chance.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the lyrics are so good. I think like I haven't listened to Me Without You in a while, but I remember I listened to them last time we were on tour because we saw them at a festival that we played while we were on tour, and it was awesome. And I was like super into it. So I checked out some of the stuff while we were on tour, and I still liked it. So I imagine I would still like it now.
I was a total fucking jerk ass when I was younger. I would only listen to certain styles of bands, and if I knew a band didn't fall into that style, I wouldn't check them out. So I was very stupid, we'll say, when I was younger.
I had a music teacher named Justin who turned me on to like a lot of different stuff, and I felt like I was like pretty like closed off to different sounding stuff until I started like working with him, and he turned me on to all this like really cool like all that like avant classical stuff from the from the 20th century I was talking about, all that stuff's like because of him, or like, free, like Ornat Coleman, and just like artier, interesting, like entry level art stuff that I could like branch off of and find other stuff like Swans, stuff that like I found really cool and really inspiring, that then kind of like bled me in other directions to where I could find smaller but equally interesting bands.
So like April, you had mentioned about no longer being like angry. So around the time I graduated from college, that's when I was like, I'm really not as much of an angry person anymore. I should probably start like finding music that isn't as angry, because I would only want to listen to like punk and hardcore that was pissed about the establishment and the government and just challenging the status quo basically. And eventually it was like, all right, this stuff, like, I can kind of get down with this, but it doesn't resonate with me as much anymore. So that was around the time when I graduated college, I started to branch out into other genres of music and exploring different bands that I never would have listened to prior.
Yeah, I relate to that. Yeah, because I was pretty frustrated. I don't know really about what anymore, but but at the time I was very political. I was a vegetarian, and I like spent my weekends like doing like, I don't know, like cleaning up parks and things like that. And I really cared about the environment. And so, I got into like bands like Crucifix and Nausea and like crusty bands, because I still like that music actually. Like sometimes we'll be playing a show somewhere and like the house music is like all this old crust music, and I'm super into that.
Have you ever seen Tragedy play before?
No, I haven't seen Tragedy play actually.
So I think I've talked about this in a past episode, but I totally can get down with like crust punk too. And I saw Tragedy this was probably like 15 years ago at this point now. It was in this grungy, disgusting ass like punk house in New Jersey. They played in a basement in like the middle of July, middle of August. It was hotter than like the depths of fucking hell in there, and it was absolutely incredible. It was so awesome.
That sounds awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they still touring? Are they still active in that way?
I don't know. So I think last year, the year before, they released an album, and like I had no clue that they did, but it was pretty good. I don't think it was as good as like I Love Vengeance, but it was still pretty good.
That's cool. Yeah.
Are you a vegetarian or a vegan?
No, I'm not. I was for a really long time, and I'm not, but I should be. I feel pretty, I still feel like I mainly do eat like tofu or buy like we had tacos the other night that I made, and they were vegan or vegetarian.
Yeah, they were good. I thought they were great.
But I don't really like to, it's kind of like what people say about Coke. They'll be like, yeah, I don't do it. I'll do it, but I won't buy it or something kind of thing. But I guess I do buy it sometimes.
so just
useless.
Like when you guys text me, like I was at a vegetarian fest here in Rochester, and I'm pretty pumped because I stopped eating meat a year ago tomorrow.
Oh,
so I'm pretty happy about that. I was never one that really gave a shit about like being a vegetarian or vegan or anything like that. But yeah, so now like when I meet other people that are into veg stuff, I'm just like, oh fuck yes.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's inspiring.
I have to say, like, there's very few things that I'm like really proud of in my life. Being a vegetarian is one of them, because I tried in the past and it was way fucking harder, and then finally when I was like, I'm gonna do it, it wasn't that bad.
It's difficult. I've periodically tried and failed every time. But yeah, I mean, respect. It's very difficult. For me, at least, I thought it was very difficult.
I make it difficult on myself. I do like barbecue and stuff. So
that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to go vegetarian for a very long time. That and wings. Like, I fucking love wings.
Aww.
Yeah.
And in Rochester, we have this place called Dinosaur Barbecue that is really fucking good. For my birthday or my wife's birthday, we'll always go out to dinner, and that was usually like the place I would want to go to dinner for my birthday. So giving up that stuff was really fucking tough.
Yeah, I feel that. But then sometimes I'm grilling. Like we've made like some kebabs for Thanksgiving. We had some friends over and stuff, and like, yeah, I ended up liking the zucchini more or something. Like, I'll eat meat, but I'll just think I want it. And then if there's other grilled like vegetables, I'm like, this is kind of better. It's like refreshing and not so heavy. So yeah, hopefully in the future, I have been thinking about becoming a vegetarian again.
Nice. Well, shit. To get back to music, so to delve into Sprain in your band, when did you guys start? Because you had mentioned a little bit earlier, Alex, that you've been around for relatively not that long.
Basically, Alex had like these songs, and he's had them since his freshman year, but he would go back to Boise for the summer when he wasn't in school. And so he had been recording a lot of this stuff, like a good amount of what is on the EP was recorded in Boise. And by the time I was involved with this, the EP had like tons of stuff already done. And Alex he studies specifically like musical arts, and I was studying like recording, and we just kind of like bumped into each other, and I started helping him with the recording. And then I don't know how I joined the band, actually, if it was before or after that.
And how did you guys come up with the name Sprain? Because I feel like it's a very, not one that I would think of for a band name, but I think it works.
Are you saying that because it's a bad band name?
No, because I feel like it totally works with this genre. I feel like slowcore is very much like one-word types of band names, like Slint, Bedhead,
Yeah.
So I feel like it just works. So when I heard it, I was like, ooh, that's not a name I would have thought of for a band, but I feel like it works for this genre.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, now that you mention that, I think it's always just kind of been like a word we randomly chose because it sounded like something that would be, kind of in that post-hardcore, post-rock, slowcore kind of scene, like codeine or slint, like you were talking about, just these like one word. It's kind of a cold sounding word. It's like phonetically it's kind of nice phonetically. I had my buddy Evan send me like a bunch of words. I was like, just send me all the words you can think of right now. And I think Sprain was one of them. And I was like, well, it's not taken on Bandcamp, so...
That's cool. So your buddy helped you come up with the band name?
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
buddy,
That's
Evan
awesome.
Kilmartin.
Yeah, Alex was texting me for a long time, and he was just sending me like words for the band, and I was kind of like, yeah, whatever you think sounds good. Because I've said this before, but I really thought that I was just going to I just started playing bass basically like before joining this band, and I kind of thought that I wouldn't make it that long. So when he was asking me for band names and stuff, I was just like, sure, whatever you want. But then when Sprain came up, I was actually like, I was pretty cool with that.
I have like a running list of names, and it's so tough to come up with like one word band names. At least for me, it's been very fucking hard.
Yeah, I think we saw that there was a band on Facebook that hadn't played since like 2007 or something, and I think they went by the name Sprain, but it looked like they had played like a show or two, and we haven't heard from them, so I think we're good. But the Bandcamp, I just asked Alex, I was like, if the Bandcamp link is available, like, go for it.
And when you guys were starting out, were you dead set on making like slowcore, softer sounding music? Was that the intent out of the gate?
No, actually, we have always performed music. At first, we were playing very quietly, but we would have loud songs as well. And there's always been loud songs. And the point of the project was never to be like die-hard, slowcore only band, But like April said, I had no means of recording loudly because a lot of it was recorded in a bedroom setting. I couldn't really crank up the loud amps I have or whatever, so everything was recorded very quietly, and I think it was kind of a result of just like being influenced by your surroundings.
I was just about to ask that. So the result of your earlier stuff, and I'm assuming what became the EP, was kind of like basically what was available to you?
Yeah, exactly. And that's continued, throughout our history as a band. Like some of the new stuff has like a lot of dissonances and kind of angular, wiry riffs in it. And there was one point where I had been subletting April's room for a month in the summer, and we didn't have an AC unit, and I didn't have a fan, and it gets really hot in Los Angeles.
Dude. How the fuck did you survive without a fan or an AC? I feel like I would have like died.
I didn't, but basically I would sit there and just like sweat and play like this really ugly, evil sounding music, and like I kind of indent those kind of initial riffs and ideas to like just being super uncomfortable and playing uncomfortable music, you know.
That's cool, man. So I never would have guessed that, but it totally makes sense, right? If you're creating anything, you're going to be influenced by your surrounding or your environment at the time. So that totally fucking makes sense.
Yeah, and I hadn't been here. This was my first year living in Burbank, which is where this apartment is, and I did not know that it was that hot. And I drove back from Texas because I was working there for the summer, and I drove back and I got here and it was like hell. And I felt so terrible that Alex was in this room this whole time just melting.
Sweating his ass off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really gross. But I think it's really good to immerse yourself in situations where your environment bleeds you in interesting creative directions. And I think it's always been like voluntary. Like I could have easily went outside in the living room where we do have an AC unit and chilled, but I was kind of more interested in just like suffering and seeing what the fruits of that labor would yield.
Wow, so that shit was intentional. You wanted to see like what you would be able to make dealing with the hot ass weather.
Yeah, and I would also get like stoned to the point of like paranoia sometimes too, like kind of borderline intentionally, which was bad, but that's some interesting stuff came out of that too, you know.
That's a very like common practice for Alex is it is though. He gets very, very high after he's like, no. And then me and Alex, the other Alex in our band, will be smoking or something. And then he'll cave, start smoking with us, and then feel terrible. And like, I always know he starts feeling terrible because he picks up a guitar and starts playing something that makes me feel terrible. And so that's how I know.
Yeah, I use that as like a psychological torture technique to write music, actually.
I give you credit, dude. So I stopped getting stoned to the bone because of that reason, dude. I would get super fucking anxious and like paranoid, and I'd have anxiety attacks to the point where I would just be sitting there like, oh my God, just breathe, man. Like you'll make it through. It was terrible. So I give you credit, dude.
It's like, you know, it's like just such it's an awful feeling. Like it's
so
completely
terrible.
Debilitating. But when I have written like that, it's just some good stuff has come out of like playing music is always like nearly always therapeutic for me. So if it's a good way, like if I start to feel like that, for stoned or not, if I start to get panicked and anxious, it's a good thing for me to play music because it kind of directs my attention away from that and into the music. And I feel like some interesting stuff has been written in that context because it's been like, I wouldn't say it's something I do entirely intentional.
Let's talk about the EP a little bit more. Like I said, I hadn't heard of your band till I discovered you guys in July, and I kid you not, I have not stopped listening to that EP. Like I love it because I hadn't listened to Codeine in a while, and I had a rotation going where I would listen to your EP, I would listen to Codeine. I can't remember which song it is on the EP, but you guys are both singing, and it totally would remind me of Gregor Samsa. I don't know if either of you guys have listened to them before, but I'd have this rotation going with like you, Codeine, Gregor Samsa, and I loved it. But there would be moments where I would just be like, oh my God, dude, this is making me feel so fucking shitty. Like I feel like I'm abusing myself right now. When you guys listen to that EP or play some of those songs or think back to that time, does it ever make you feel like, oh, fuck?
Yeah, for me it does. Like I said, Alex had a bunch of song ideas already, so I was learning his songs when he first asked me to start playing with him, and I would listen to True Norwegian Black Metal, just trying to like, I mean, it's slow and stuff, but I was just trying to like learn the lyrics and stuff. And I totally cried like multiple times when I heard that. Like, not like a ton, but my eyes got super watery and I was sad. I was sad. Yeah, it was. I also like had seen photos of Alex and his puppy, who's she's not a puppy anymore. But I'd seen photos of them, and I was like, his sweet puppy, like, you know, thinking about that. But it's actually just a song. It's actually not about his puppy.
Oh my God, dude, that part in the song fucks me up. So I will completely admit to you guys, like, that song has brought tears to my eyes because of that. If I'm listening to that EP and my dog is near me, it will make me feel like shit. My wife and I have talked about both of our pets dying. She's had other pets in her life who have died. I've been fortunate enough where I've only had one pet that has died because I haven't had many pets in my life. And that was so hard. And that was like a family pet. And so now my wife and I have a dog and a cat. And I know when it comes time for them to pass away, it is going to like absolutely wreck me. And so my wife and I have talked about this before. And so those lyrics at the end of that song fuck me up every single time I listen to it because it makes me think about my pets dying. And especially my dog dying.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Somebody critiqued us and said that it was really fucked up for us to just write lyrics like that and have lyrics. Yeah, someone said that.
Was it just some like jabroni on the internet?
It was somebody that I used to work with, actually.
Well, yeah. I don't give a fuck about that. Yeah. That asinine opinion.
So wait, all right. So because I love that fucking song, and I wanted to ask about that song. So you're welcome. Because yes, even if you take out those last lyrics in the song, it is still such a morose song. And so kind of and correct me if I'm wrong here, but kind of what my thought was with that song is that it has to do with you breaking up with someone or someone like going out of your life. Is that correct at all or no?
Yeah, but I think it's more about like me going out of like other people's lives, like moving.
Really?
Yeah, moving and not being. I mean, there wasn't like too many people that I particularly cared about living in Idaho, but there's a few, and I think that song is kind of like a little bit of like a realization that I'm not going to go back and I'm not going to see those people and we're never going to be as close.
Wow, man. I wouldn't have thought that. Yeah, I would have thought that it was about like a breakup or something.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it is kind of like a breakup a little bit. It's kind of like just not a romantic one.
My understanding of the lyrics or my interpretation was just about not having the same friends that you play music with anymore and them being far away and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that brings me to your lyrics, Alex. I really enjoy your lyrics. I think they're really great. What influences you or what inspires you with your lyrics? Is there something that you draw from that helps you with writing lyrics? Or is it just kind of like whatever you want to write about, this just comes out because of that?
I think I have always tried to like walk a fine line between being cryptic and kind of surreal with the lyrics. And also, like, I guess, emotional and personal, but kind of like combining those two worlds, so it's not too much of one thing. Like specific influences, I mean, obviously there's a lot of artists that I look up to lyrically, but I guess I don't really know. I think that more so than that, because I don't particularly feel like lyrics come easily to me. I think that they're like actually probably like one of the hardest parts about like writing songs for me.
I agree with you, dude.
It's just kind of like I think I'm mostly inspired by like what other people say around me, whether they're people I hate or like or love or whatever, but I think people say things to me and then I'll take those and interpret them in different ways. And I went to Catholic school for 9 years, like growing up in middle school and stuff, and some of that like evangelical like end of times imagery that gets planted in your head as a young kid has stuck with me because some of it's frightening and interesting and it's just very fascinating. And like, I think I kind of take that as inspiration and branch off from there. So it's not like biblical or whatever, but it has kind of like an aesthetic along those lines, I guess. Maybe like a little bit of like a Southern Gothic kind of style thing.
So I agree completely with what you're saying. I write poetry and I feel like it is easier for me to write a fucking 4-page Word doc poem than it is to write lyrics, because I feel like, just like what you were saying, I have been with my poetry, a lot of times I'm not as cryptic, and with my lyrics I want to be a little bit more cryptic in what I write, and it can be very difficult for me, and I feel like it's very hard. I feel like I've come to enjoy lyrics that are just like you're saying are somewhat cryptic and vague enough, but you could still be able to ascertain what the person is trying to say. So yeah, it's really fucking tough.
I think that it's like a good thing to include the listener in the artistic experience or the artistic creative experience a little bit. Like if everyone gets something that's like different from a song, I think that's unique and good. I think it's kind of not lame, but maybe it's a little bit like less involved if the listener just kind of knows exactly what every song is about. It doesn't make it less powerful or less good, but I guess it definitely makes them less involved. And so too,
yeah,
I've always felt like I like being involved and kind of like creating my own interpretation about stuff that doesn't necessarily make 100% sense from artists. So that's kind of what I wanted to reflect in my lyrical work.
That's really cool, man. And, you know, to kind of go back to what I mentioned earlier, I'm totally drawing a blank. I think, is it anything? I can't remember. You guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but there's several songs where April is singing along with you. And I love that. I love when bands kind of get that duet going or have two vocalists, a female and a male singing, because I feel like it just works so well. And I think both of your vocals together in a track is really great. And so did you guys, at the onset of this project, was that the goal, that you wanted to both be able to sing in tracks together, or did that just kind of come out as you were writing stuff?
Yeah, that was a total accident. I don't remember that being a part of the plan at all, actually.
Yeah, I think we just got really into low because April liked low and I liked low and no one else around us really liked low. But I think that, you know, low, that band has some of the best singers like ever. And I was like, fuck, if we can do something even like a fifth as good as that, it might be kind of cool. But I don't think you hadn't really sang all that much before.
Yeah, I did like some screaming stuff before, and I had done some singing with like a vocal effects processor. So it was a whole game, like I don't know, like learning how to do vocals dry was pretty scary. We spent forever doing No One's Home. Actually, that song took so long. Yeah, we spent we also, like, I was just recording Alex's vocals, and I'm really not one to be like, hey, like, put me on your track, bro. But yeah, we were recording his vocals, and it did sort of feel like it needed some highs. So I had like an idea, and I think I brought it up to Alex as like, why don't you try to sing this? And Alex was like, why don't you try to sing this, kind of thing.
Well, I remember getting really frustrated because, not at April, but at myself, because recording vocals is really hard for me, at least. And I get inside my own head, and I was like really like getting on some serious like anti-Alex shit at that point. And April was like, well, why don't you try doing this? And I was just like, why don't you fucking try doing that? You know, just kind of being an asshole. But then it worked out really well, and you wrote the harmony part for that. So
yeah, it was funny. We were in the booth, and I was just doing the recording element of it initially, but I had my talkback mic, and I was giving, because it's like the EP was so hard to record because it was so quiet, and so any like dumb thing that you didn't really mean to do, like, you couldn't get away with it. There wasn't like a giant guitar that was going to cover those sounds, so it was just annoying, and it was super obvious if you were just like a few cents off pitch wise and things like that. So when Alex was tracking it, I was just like holding the note, like I was singing it, so he could like find it and then go into it from the talkback mic.
Yeah, we cheated like that a little bit.
That shit's so cool, man. And this is the stuff that I love learning about, because I never would have guessed that was the case. And that totally makes sense, because I did read that you guys recorded, mixed, and did a lot of the production for the album, which I think is fucking cool. But I never would have thought that, and it totally makes sense when you're making quieter sounding music, that you probably have to be that much sharper than as opposed to if you're playing something with a shit ton of distortion and super loud.
Yeah, it was something I had to really learn about, because like my background making music is like electronic music, and I never had to worry about that kind of stuff. So it was a whole new thing, but I kind of really liked the challenge of it. I liked finding the tools that worked for recording things so quietly, and yeah, It was fun.
Yeah, and I recall that song No One's Home just being incredibly difficult in every respect because I wanted to do the guitar take in one take. I just wanted to nail it because if I didn't nail it and I tried to do like an edit, I couldn't get it. I couldn't do an edit without it being obvious because there's nothing else going on in the song harmonically really besides vocals, guitar, and bass. So it was like so obvious that if I missed a note, and when you're playing that slow, you kind of have to connect your guitar playing in a way that like you can't just like, you have to hit a note and then allow that to sustain and then kill that previous note right as you hit another one for it to sound fluid. And if you didn't do that, there was like this weird space in between it. And it was really bothering me for like a really long time. And I had to get it absolutely like perfect. So I ended up recording that guitar track like, oh God, over 100 times probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I do write some slower stuff. What I always find with myself is that I legitimately have to like think about it and force myself to slow down. My thought is to always play stuff faster. And so sometimes it could be difficult for me to like write slower stuff and I have to be like very intentional. Do you find that to be the case for you?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's so hard for me. Like Alex was just calling me out sometime, like yesterday, I think. And it takes me so much longer to learn something slower where I'm just playing, like I'm just emphasizing like these downbeats every few measures with whatever is happening. And if I have like a riff, like something that moves around a lot more, I can learn it a lot faster. So there is like, your head has to be in the game. Our drummer Max, we've been recording our new album with him and practicing with him, and I did like I have an app that tells me like the tempos and stuff. I think he really can play like 35 BPM.
Yeah.
You guys play at 35 BPM?
Sometimes.
Holy shit. I think the slowest I've played at is like 55.
Yeah, that's what I was doing when I was playing like my solo music, and I thought that was slow.
Yeah. Oh my God, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's like it's slow.
It's a lot of counting.
Yeah. But honestly, we just depend on Max. Max is the only one who can do it because I can't concentrate. I can't count in my head and play music. I can't even count. Like, so whenever we do anything an odd time or whatever, like I'm just like, oh, it goes like this and then it goes like that. And then it's like, and I don't count it out or think about it. I just get comfortable enough to play it, you know, and turn my mind off of it and focus on that.
Yeah, that's when my ADHD is like such a fucking bad thing for me because my attention sometimes is like when I'm writing stuff or playing stuff slowly, it's like I want to then just start playing shit fast. And it sometimes is a pain in the ass. It's
about like discipline. Like that band Low, for example, just has such incredible discipline with the tempos that they play at and their intonation, and they're just like, it's really admirable to like hear a band that like has that much control over something so fragile and so easily destroyed, kind of.
So you've brought up Low a couple of times, and I'm a fan of Low. They played last night, this fest, Basilica, in Hudson, New York, and I'm so pissed I didn't go because I saw a bunch of videos from their set last night, and it looked fucking incredible. Have you guys ever seen them play before?
I have not.
I've
never seen Low.
Oh man, Alex hasn't seen Low.
I haven't seen them either, dude. So
they're really good.
I know, man, and so they were like one of the big reasons why I wanted to go. I'm not a big festival guy. I can't. Like,
I don't blame
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I wanted to go. It's like, ooh, there's gonna be way too many people for my liking in the crowd. So
we played a festival with Low, and we didn't play on the same bill. I was so like I didn't get it. There was like some psych band that played before them, and I was like, what? Why? I guess that we
were jealous. It's okay.
I was very jealous of that. It's bullshit.
Oh, I don't blame you guys.
Low. Yeah.
But I saw Low play actually at this venue, and the guy, like, I studied live sound actually at community college in Austin, and the guy who taught me live sound did sound for the Low show, and it was at this bar called The Parish. And it's in Austin, but it's like a nice wooden room, and I've seen really cool shows there, but like it was the best show I had seen at that venue, and the sound was kind of perfect for the room, and everything about that show was pretty awesome. And I love that they played like a 2-hour show, and it was just them, and they had like maybe an intermission, and then they picked it back up. So it was cool. And I saw how their live sound engineer works, because we do, like, when we were playing the EP material live, that was so confusing for us because we had all of our equipment, like the preamps that were going to make us the level we needed, and there wasn't going to be feedback because we were in a studio. And when we started playing these songs live, it was like hard, to be honest. And I always think about how Low does it live, because they have their own like, I think they have Avalon preamps or something. They have Neumann condenser microphones, and really have their live stuff set up.
I was going to say, from the videos that I've seen, they seem like they have that shit down to a fucking science. Like, it just looks like they would be absolutely incredible.
It's incredibly hard playing music that quiet live. Like, I don't know how they do it. We've tried to do it with some of our quiet songs. I had a friend call us Shitty Low, I think, or maybe was that you, Alex?
Boo them.
Well, I think they said it with lots of love.
Bummed me out.
I think they said it in a funny way, but I thought that was, it's hard to be like, I mean, just being a version of Low is cool. But it is hard to do live, so I learned a lot seeing Low live in that regard.
So to go back to your music, when I was preparing this interview, I was reading up in your Bandcamp and about the album, and I guess I just assumed some of the noisier, stuff that doesn't sound like traditional, just guitar, bass. I figured you guys used like synths or some shit for it, but reading that you guys used a bowed banjo and a cymbal and then synthetic flutes, I thought that was so fucking awesome, because those are things I never would have thought, that you could use a fucking bow and a banjo or a cymbal. How did you guys wind up coming up with using those in the recording process and the writing process?
Well, there is that song Deliver Us, which kind of has that ambient sounding outro. And ambient music is something I've always been like interested in, but not like fully dedicated to, you know? Like, so we like to do stuff like that, but it's not like, I don't think I could ever release just like a purely ambient thing. So I wanted to do something different. And when we put the singles out, I remember there was like an awful lot of people that threw the word Duster around, and it was just getting like really frustrating, because I love Duster, like they're actually one of my favorite bands, and I do understand getting compared to Duster, but it just happens so much. So I was like, there has to be something else that we should do to differentiate the sound up a little bit from just sounding like a traditional slowcore band like Duster or Low. And so I think that we threw in kind of that Baroque or that weird folk ambient thing at the end, and that was actually played by an old member of Sprain who we don't play anymore, but they added a lot of that stuff, and it sounds really great. I think that their contributions to that song really made it something special.
That's really cool. Yeah, I figured that at the end of Deliver Us was the bowed cymbal. Where did you guys incorporate the banjo?
The banjo's there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, you would probably have to bow a banjo or look up someone bowing a banjo to like actually point out the sound, because it's very like, I mean, it's buried in there, but it's there. You can hear it, but it doesn't sound like it's. You can't be like, oh, that's aha, there it is. That's the banjo. It's like, it sounds like an incredibly tinny violin or something.
That's really fucking cool. And because I know you say you've been putting together new material and writing stuff and performing some newer songs live. As you guys continue to work on new material, is that part of the process as well, is trying to incorporate some more non-traditional types of instruments or sounds that one would not think of when you think of slowcore or like a slowcore adjacent type of genre?
Absolutely.
I did just get a lap steel.
Wait a second, what the fuck is a lap steel?
It's It's like used in country music, like that slide guitar sound.
Oh, fuck yes.
I was just kidding, but I mean, I did get that, but
we should use it.
So shit, I'm trying to remember who it was this was years ago. I think it might have been in Manhattan somewhere, and I'm sorry because I can't remember what band it was that I saw this. But is it kind of like one of those things where you're sitting and it's like on a table, it's like be on a tabletop and you have like a slide and it looks like just like a flat guitar? Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly it.
So I saw someone and oh my God, I can't remember what band it was, and it sounded absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I like those. I like country music. Alex actually got it for my birthday, which is next week.
We're really big fans of country music, like old school outlaw, and we kind of actually bonded over Hank Williams, Sir Hank Williams, not 2 or 3, but the OG Sir Hank Williams. And as soon as April dropped that name, I was like, all right, she's sick, she's in. But yeah, we always really liked the slide guitar, and so want to put that in the music. And but yeah, there's a track with some synthesizers. There's some saxophone stuff, actually.
The saxophone stuff is good. That we had our, I guess, mentor at 2 different times or somebody. But yeah, this guy Ulrich Krieger plays saxophone, and it sounds good, and I think it's going to be everyone's favorite part of the record. I think I actually showed it to my friend Bill, who plays in that band Exhalants, and he said that he thought the saxophone was a synthesizer, and Ulrich just is good at that stuff. He broke a few reeds like playing it, and his technique, it kind of has distortion built into the sound of the sax. So.
Whoa.
But that was with no pedals.
Sexy sax.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Dude, yeah, sexy sax, like the more I am all for bands including sax into their music, because I feel like it just adds such a cool fucking element, and not a lot of bands do it.
It's definitely more non-traditional saxophone playing.
Yeah.
It punches through the mix, though. It's good.
Oh, I imagine so. So shit, do you guys see an instrument or something you're like, we got to include this? Or is it just like trial and error where you're like, let's see if we could figure out something that maybe is non-traditional and see if we can figure out a way to include this in our songwriting process?
I think it just comes down to like people we think are cool. Like there's somebody we were talking, I mean, I don't know if it'll happen for this record, but there's one girl and she played a show with our friend Dylan Freeman in his project City of Orchestras, and like we were like, that person seems cool, we should do a song with them. And we've said that about like a few of our friends. It's
French
Erin.
horn, yeah.
We thought about getting Erin on French horn, and we haven't even asked her, so I don't think she'll listen to this podcast, but so I think, and then we just think Ulrich is great. So there's a few other people I know that Alex just likes as artists and people too that you were thinking about reaching out to. So
I think that this record is a lot more difficult to do stuff like that on than the EP was, because the EP, we had all the time in the world, we could do whatever we want. And with this record, we are working in a studio where we have to pay to be there, and we're not exactly the most wealthy people, right now. So we barely get enough time to lay our own instruments down and stuff. So that's kind of still something we're considering. And it's definitely added post recording of the band. So we never really, I would say that it's never really something that is thought of as like while we're in rehearsal playing music. I don't think anyone goes, okay, here's where the French horn part is going to be. It's something that we would just kind of collaborate with the artist on in the studio.
Yeah, I think we would just do what we would normally do, like play the songs how we do live, and if we can figure out a way to like finagle them into the studio, then possibly
we'll trick them to be there.
We'll tell them that we got barbecue, and then they'll come.
I'm sure you guys have like really good barbecue in LA, right? There's got to be good places.
I like going to Joshua Tree, like probably like every hipster in LA, but there's a spot that I love going to. It's called Pappy and Harriet's, and we saw Godspeed there. We saw the Soft Moon there. We played an open mic there, actually.
Yeah, we were supposed to meet Vern Rumsey from Unwound there. I'm friends with Vern from Unwound, and we were supposed to meet him there, but he just didn't show up. So we ended up just playing without him. And
well, the weather was really bad.
The weather was really bad. And we ended up playing a really bad like open mic set without him, and no one liked it, and everyone hated us, and it was bad.
Well, we played. What was funny is we played like True Norwegian Black Metal, and we didn't talk about like how to play it without like the slow drums in between like hits and stuff. So it was just funny. But yeah, barbecue there.
I wanted to ask, I've never been to Joshua Tree before, and that's on the list of places I want to go to.
It's amazing.
I was just about to ask, is it really cool?
Yeah, it's awesome. I think that's kind of like where some of my favorite memories are. It's just a nice place. And yeah, I was pretty slammed my last semester in school, and I had a big like art installation I was working on, and I was thinking I would do that with my spring break. And Alex talked me into just going to he didn't really try very hard, but he was like, I'm going to Joshua Tree for a week. And I had been to Joshua Tree a few times, but this place that Alex took me to was really cool, and we camped there and just stayed there for like a week with no internet and played music, and it was awesome. So ever since then,
that's really cool.
I really like Joshua Tree, and the barbecue is so good. But there's another barbecue spot in LA called Bloodzo's, and I like that. But I also like barbecue in Texas, and I like I like this restaurant Slab a lot. And there's also, they're trying to get back on it, but there was a food truck called Barbecue Revolution that was vegan barbecue.
Oh,
and that
God.
place was amazing. They smoked tempeh, and they had
dude,
they had like fake ribs that were made of tempeh.
that's awesome as fuck.
They were really good. So hopefully
yeah.
when you go to Austin and they're back in business, I think they had to figure out something with their truck or something.
Fuck yeah. To go back to like new stuff, so have you guys like fully recorded your next album, or are you guys still working on that stuff?
We're working on it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
a fair amount of it. I'd say maybe half of it is recorded, and the other half is basically ready to record. So it should be relatively soon that is being talked about more. But yeah.
Let's say someone's listening to the old EP, and then when the new album comes out, what would you say to someone? What should someone expect with the newer material that you guys have been putting together, and how it compares to the EP that you released?
It'll still make you sad, just probably a different kind of sad, maybe.
This one's, I'm going to hijack your quote here from the other day, and I think that this one's a little bit more like the song Deliver Us. Everything about that song sounds like this record a little bit more. I think we went a little bit more in that direction, incorporating stuff like noise rock and post-rock a little bit more. It's still slow. It doesn't sound like traditional slowcore, I can say that. It's not. For anyone who liked it for that reason, I don't think that they'll well, I mean, I can't speak for anybody, but I don't think that anyone who's like a purist for that genre will find immediate appreciation in this record, because it is different, and we are a different band, and it's a different sound. But I think that that's good, and I don't think that any of us are interested in being fixated on one thing in particular at all.
You know, I kind of told you guys about young me and how I would only listen to like certain genres, and I wouldn't stray from that. As I've gotten older, my taste in music has totally broadened, and the stuff that I've grown to be interested in and intrigued by is the stuff that strays from just what you would expect from a certain genre. And I think that's so cool if that's the route that you guys are going, because, I mean, how many fucking albums could you put out that just sound like the same thing over and over again, you know, before it becomes no longer interesting? So I think that's fucking awesome, and I'm so excited to hear that stuff, man.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like how we feel about it too. Like, it's a direction that, I mean, even like if you listen to Lowe's new album, like that, they're not doing the same thing, you know. And I don't think any band, I mean, a lot of bands don't put out the same type of album every time they put out a record too. So I just don't think that was interesting for us. We have the other Alex, I guess as he's called in this band. Alex Simmons is playing guitar, and we have Max Pretzer on drums, which is not, we didn't even have like an official second guitar player for the EP, so it's just different.
I think that we all think it's better.
I think we have more fun playing it too, because like what we were talking, it's not like I like the old EP. In fact, like I'm the one who's been trying to get Alex to feel like playing them for shows, but I understand why he wants to do the new stuff. But I actually really like the EP, but as I mentioned earlier, like playing stuff quiet in a rock venue or a DIY space without all the bells and whistles like that, I've seen like Low use to accomplish that, and they have like a touring engineer and stuff. But it's a hard thing to do. It's hard to figure out a good monitor mix for the loud and quiet parts. It's hard to get things set, you know, because you can, in the studio, you can have your recording settings set for like the loud stuff, and you could have it set for the quiet stuff. But in a live setting, you just have it set for the show. So I think like I like the new stuff because you know, playing it live makes more sense. It's more like the type of music you leave your house and go see, versus I think the EP is more like something you like smoke weed and cry to a little bit at home. But I like the EP too. Like I said, I do like the EP, and like there was we played the outro for Anything a little bit differently live, and we made it like I feel like experimenting with the outro for Anything in a live situation, because the recording doesn't represent this, but I feel like that's kind of when we first started experimenting with the new sound that Sprain actually has. So
hell yeah, man. I just want to tell you guys that you guys have become one of my current favorite bands, and I'm so excited to hear your new music, and I trust that what you guys are going to put out is going to be fucking awesome.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I don't
You
feel
are very
worthy,
welcome.
but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what have you guys been listening to lately?
That's a good question. We had to go like on a little road trip over the past weekend, so I think I was listening to Cat Power, and
I love Sean. I was about to call her Shawn Michael because of fucking WWE. Her voice is amazing. She has such a beautiful voice.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of stuff I would listen to a lot, especially getting into the, you know, around the time I first started playing music with Alex. Like that was a record that kind of I was listening to. I felt like it was relevant. And then I revisited it over the weekend. What's the name of her first record, actually? I don't remember.
Oh my God, what the fuck is it called? I don't even remember. So she did that like covers album. So when my wife and I got married, I put together the music for our reception, and I told my wife, when this song comes on, we are 100% dancing, and it was a Cat Power song. So like as soon as I heard it come on, I was like running to like go grab my wife and dance with her, because yeah, she's fucking, her music is so good.
The album I was talking about is Dear Sir. But
yeah, such a good album.
Yeah, that was that's something I really like. And then
did you listen to her newer album? Was it called Wanderer? Maybe I'm totally
I need
drawing
to.
a blank on the name.
I need to check out her new album.
It was good.
It's on the queue, that and the Dead Sea album, the newer one. But Alex has heard that. I just haven't heard it yet.
Mm-hmm. I've kind of been listening to a lot of a few bands in particular. One of them is Polvo. Do you know that band?
No, I've never heard them before. What do they sound like?
They're like Slint had fun. They're really cool. There's a band called Lowercase that is amazing. We've been listening to them. I constantly listen to Unwound
and Swans
and Swans a lot. But I do have to say that like one thing that I've been listening to, all that stuff's like pretty typical of me to listen to, but one thing I've been listening to that has not really been something that I'd like typically listen to that much was this record, Liquid Swords by the RZA. It's like a Wu-Tang guy.
Yep.
And that record is really cool, and it's super like entry level hip hop, but I've been like super into that record. And I've also been listening to that band, The Dead Sea's new album, a lot, as well as April, because it's fucking awesome. Oh,
well, I haven't listened to that record yet.
But what I did want to say is, I think I almost constantly, at least once a week, listen to Light Mirror, Kyle's new record.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
So good. Yeah. I felt like we had to like say that because all I do is listen to Kyle's music all the time. Yeah,
so yeah, I left Drowse out of the equation. So yeah, I would add to my queue would be your EP, Light Mirror, The White Birch by Codeine, and 5512 from Gregor Samsa. And it was an incredibly, horribly gut-wrenching like queue of music to listen to, but it was amazing. Yeah, that album is so goddamn good.
The White Birch is so much better than Frigid Stars, I feel like.
So for the longest time, The White Birch was my favorite of their releases, and I recently delved back into Frigid Stars, and now I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. I was in agreement with you for a very, very long period of time, and I've been listening to Frigid Stars lately a bunch, and now I'm like, ooh, I don't know which one I like more.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're both great.
Maybe I should go back and listen to both of them again and see if anything hits me any differently. But I've always just been, I think White Birch is one of the best records.
I love the White Birch, man. Codeine is like one of my favorite slowcore bands, so yeah, I agree.
Alex showed me this band, Lil Cap and Travis.
Oh yeah.
And they're amazing.
What are they called? Little Cap and Travis?
Yeah. It's a funny name, but they're from Austin. I didn't even know about them, and Alex just knew about them somehow, and that band's been cool, and I've been listening to a bunch of Neil Young.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, we always listen to a lot of Neil Young.
So yeah, I was trying to think of what I've been listening to. It took me a second.
Fuck yeah. So, and I know we've talked about a new album coming out at some point. Do you guys have any stuff coming up in the next few weeks, the next few months?
Yes. We're going to play a show with
a bunch of people. We have a lot of shows.
Yeah, we have a lot of shows. I'd say the most notable of things that we're doing is in December we're playing with the shoegaze band Nothing.
I saw that you guys posted that. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're also playing with a new Justin Pearson band.
We'll see. They texted us right before. I don't know if that's going to happen, but possibly a show with Def Club. Yeah. Which is nice. the new band that JP is in. We have a show with Young Lovers next week. Mm-hmm. We have a show on the 28th with probably the most Sprain adjacent band. They opened up for Pile when Pile played here. They're called Clear Capsule.
Yeah, they're very good.
They're really good. So I've been excited to play with them or see them for a while, and now I finally get to. So that'll be great. Are we doing that Halloween show or no?
I don't know if we're going to have time. We still have to learn all the Minor Threat. We're supposed to be Minor Threat for a Halloween show, but...
Oh my God.
I want to. But
we'll do it. We should do it.
We'll figure it out. And then, I think the remainder of the year, we have like a few shows this month, a couple the following month, and then nothing until we play with Nothing, haha. And then we will start talking about... The record will be done before the end of the year is our goal. So
nice. Hell yeah. Well, April and Alex, thank you so much for your time, guys. This was great. I really enjoyed our conversation. You guys were awesome. So thank you very, very much.
Thanks so much, Dan.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Yeah, your show's awesome. So happy to be on it.
After my conversation with Alex and April, I went and gave my dog a hug because just talking to them made me think about that damn song. And I was like, I got to go give my dog a hug. But shit, yeah, really fun time speaking to Alex and April. They were really awesome. They're a band right now that I think is really making some cool shit. And they're a band that I'm really excited to see what the future has in store for them. Like I said, guys, April, Alex, get your asses to upstate New York, Rochester, somewhere on the East Coast within driving distance so I could see you guys play. Shit. I'll make sure to add links in the show notes to how you could follow them on social media, how you could listen to their music. You guys know the drill. Make sure to check them out and give them a listen if you haven't. If you have the opportunity to see them, shit, get on that. If you're not following the show, guys, at this point, what the fuck? get on it. Make sure you're subscribed to the show. Make sure to rate the show on iTunes because that's super freaking appreciated. If you want to hear my wife and I bullshit about Star Wars and Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, The Witcher, all the nerdy shit that we're into, follow our show. It's called Dan's on Fandoms. Like I said, it's going to be dropping this week. Be much appreciated. All right, guys, you know the drill. Get out there, create something cool. I will see you all next time.